Today's guest is voice actor Maren Garcia, and the conversation has a through line that I just love. We talk about access, we talk about craft, and of course, we talk about connection and how it's all braided together. Maren shares how she first discovered audio description when she was reached out to be hired for a feature film after finding her through the Disabled Voice Actors Database, specifically for her authentic casting. We talk about what it's like to vet a company that you've never worked with, why intentional writing and performance really do matter, and how audio description can sharpen your storytelling instincts. And then we pivot into something unexpectedly fun and meaningful. Maren's work on NPC Chronicles. It's a Kickstarter soundboard project for Dungeons & Dragons non-playable characters, and why she sees it as an access tool that's rooted in play and participation and belonging. And she uses the word joy a few times, and you'll see why. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who cares about storytelling and accessibility. The ADNA Presents is on all podcast platforms and YouTube. As always, this is for Kevin. Welcome to the ADNA Presents. This is Roy Samuelson. Today we have Maren Garcia joining us. She's a voice actor. She loves audio description, which we'll definitely talk about. And we're going to talk about soundboard. That's just a tease for now. Thanks for joining us, Maren.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure. I know we're doing this audio only, but you and I are able to connect on the video, and I see both of us are in our studio.
Yeah.
So yours looks really comfortable.
Thank you. Yeah. Just a brief little audio description of myself and my setup, if you would. Pale skin, dark features, bright pink shirt that might be like swallowing me alive. In my studio, white foam everywhere. It's really cozy in here.
That's great. Wonderful. Yeah. I got my blue tea. It's a Henley with one of my friends, Bold Blind Beauty owner and founder, Steph McCoy, gave me this. I think it's an alpaca, but it may be a llama. But she loves alpacas. And this one's like mid-shoe, and it just delights me to no end. Let's talk about audio description. What do you love about it?
So we have to start with the story of how I got involved with it to begin with. I had no idea what it was until a couple years ago, when a company called Descriptive Video Works one of the project managers emailed me and said, "Hey, we have this whole feature film that needs audio description called Out of My Mind. And it's about a girl with cerebral palsy, and I found you on the Disabled Voice Actors Database, and authentic casting is pretty cool. So do you want to do this whole film?" And I was like, because I had never done it before. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if this company was legit. Spoiler, everybody's great. But I didn't know anything going into it. So I was doing my little research, and one thing led to another, and now here we are. What I love about audio description, to answer your question directly, beyond just my incredibly personal connection to it from the jump, is the fact it, just like any other accessibility tool, it's built with a certain demographic in mind, but it's so beneficial for everybody, right? After being hired on quite a few times, I started watching media with audio description where I could, and I was like, oh, I can look away. Like, I can do my dishes and not miss anything. You know what I mean? So accessibility is something that benefits everybody, whether it just be for convenience or out of necessity. And I'm so glad that this line of work is so in line with what I want to do, not just from a voiceover perspective, but on a personal level, which is talk about disability and make the world a little bit more cognizant of something that might not otherwise be at the top of mind.
Here's how I was found. I was on this database, and they were looking for authentic casting and your own personal connection with it. I can only imagine, if we could step back for just a second. You said you didn't even know about this company, and it sounds like you did your research.
Yeah,
What was that like?
Oh my gosh. So I got the email from one of the project directors, and I'm laughing now because, oh boy, younger Maren really didn't know any of what she was doing. And so I was like frantically searching, like, what is audio description? What is Descriptive Video Works? What is anything? And so I stumbled across their website, and I was like, I'm just going to cross my fingers and pray that they're legit, because that's what this industry is in some instances, is, everybody can have the coolest website in the world, but that doesn't mean that everybody has great intentions. So I took a leap because I was like, evidently they did research on me enough to want to reach out to me and enough to trust me with the whole film. And everybody is so kind. I cannot stress that enough. Anytime they come to me and they're like, do you want, and I'm like, yes, immediately. I don't care what I have to do. I will rip the world in half. Yes.
It's great to hear also that awareness is being built, that now audio description seems like it's getting a little more attention. Are you noticing that yourself?
Yeah, it's definitely, particularly on Netflix. I've noticed that there are a couple of major players, Descriptive Video Works, and their initials are IDC, and I remember that because I don't care. But that is not the name of their company. Yes, it's absolutely been getting more attention, which I love. And I think the reason for that is just like how audiobooks got attention, just like how any other form of accessibility can gain attention over time. It starts small, benefiting disabled folks. And then more and more able bodied people are like, oh, this is actually sweet. Like my story of how when I listen to audio description, I'm like, oh, I can keep doing things and I don't have to sit and watch if I don't want to. And the most recent example of this, I intentionally put on a dance show because I was like, there's no way this isn't the most visual thing in the world. Just to see what would be highlighted and what that process was like. And I found it to be very educational and very intentional with what they highlighted, what they didn't. And I just found that to be so illuminating, right? Because to not, as somebody who is sighted, to intentionally put myself in a situation where I'm missing pieces of context, right? To put myself in a situation that might be a little bit more similar to those who need AD. I found that to be very enlightening and it just made me more conscientious of my role.
One of the things I love about audio description performance is that intentionality that comes through the performance. And that's something that I think you're also sharing in the writing, especially for that dance, that those bring to life something very calculated and deliberate and crafted. It's pretty remarkable. Have you found that the scripts that because you're a voice actor as well, outside of audio description performance, do you find that these scripts, you're able to dive in and just go with it and find the flow?
I got my start in theater, right? Character work. So I absolutely do take the time to dive in and what's my motivation and where am I and blah, 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 all that character stuff. And I just find that to be, in a strange way, it does relate to AD because, again, going back to that intentionality and that empathy, putting myself in the situation of if I were to need this, what would that mean for me as a consumer? And I wouldn't be able, I think, for myself, I wouldn't be able to ask myself those questions and put myself in as vulnerable of a position if I didn't start with a lens of empathy that I built through character work, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, that intention and context are the two things that, at least my performance and what I'm approaching when I do audio description, that's really the focus. Let's go to another thing that I am very excited to talk with you about. Let's just jump in. Soundboard.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So the soundboard is called NPC Chronicles, and it is, spoiler, a soundboard for D&D NPCs, D&D non-playable characters. And the reason why it excites me so much is because when a friend of mine reached out to me and said, hey, this was before he even offered me a character, he was more so just like venting about how he didn't, because it's a Kickstarter campaign, he didn't know if it was going to meet its funding goal, and he didn't necessarily know how to pitch it to get people to care, because quite frankly, everybody's so bombarded with so much all the time. To ask people to stop and pause and care about what you're doing and the product that you have, that's a big ask much of the time. And so as I learned more about this project, my first thought was, oh, this is an accessibility tool, right? Going back to Out of My Mind, right? The main character, Melody, uses an assistive communication device, like a soundboard in a way. And I also, way prior to audio description work, I worked at summer camps and hospitals for kids with disabilities, and some of whom are non-vocal. So they used assistive communication devices, and sometimes all they need is a little push. And disabled people, non-vocal, wherever they land on the spectrum, they all deserve the therapy that can come alongside something like D&D. They all deserve that point of connection. So once I became very clear on why it matters and here's how you can help, I started reaching out to nonprofits who were interested in lending a hand, and it's super amazing to say that their generosity pushed us past the fundraising goal and into the first stretch goal.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
something about that approach that I'm hearing weaved throughout your life experiences that you've shared, from the accessibility tool to the summer camp to how you approached audio description to your theater background, that all of these things are twined together, braided together in a way that I'm really excited to hear. What was that drive that you had to want to be a part of it? What is something else about that experience of wanting to get this word out? What do you think was effective?
I think at the end of the day, it's about service and it's about connection and it's about joy and play, which you may be thinking it's audio description. How can that possibly be playful? It is still performance. It is still wanting to reach through the screen and wanting to give people connection and joy. If my work leads to someone laughing or crying or makes them feel something, then I've done my job. And going back to the idea of everybody being so bombarded with so much stuff all the time, we need joy now more than ever. We need play now more than ever. And that's really the service aspect of this is so much bigger than me. And whenever I send out an outreach email or whenever I am pitching something, it's always with the intention of, here's how you can help. I would love it if you would take any sort of action, whether it be donating if you can or reaching out to a friend of a friend, just so that everybody involved can say that they did something. And I think right now it's so easy to get lost in the hopelessness of like, all these bad things are happening and what contribution could I possibly make that means something? And then you get an email, hey, here's this awesome project. I'd love for you to help.
There's something about connection that lights
Yeah.
me up, and I hear how that is a part of this. When you think about the responses that you get after the outreach, the people that are like, oh yeah, or I know somebody, let me introduce you. That's obviously another sense of connection. Is there
Yeah.
something that you could share specifically about a response to that outreach?
For the soundboard, it's the first example that comes to mind. I got creative and I started reaching out to organizations in the UK just because international outreach is so powerful. And again, a lot of my voice acting stuff started with Descriptive Video Works, which is a Canadian company. So my brain automatically is thinking beyond the US. So I reached out to a couple of nonprofit organizations in London, and both times they were like, girl, you must be working hard if you're reaching out from all the way over there. And so just like sharing a laugh before we got back down to business, that's really the little things that it's about. And as far as AD and that kind of connection, I'm really lucky in that Molly Burke, a blind YouTuber who I had been watching her stuff for years, she made a video at the end of 2024, I believe it was, talking about like some of the best representation regarding disabled people in film. And Out of My Mind was on that list. That's so nuts. Like the main character Melody was in the thumbnail and I was like, oh my God. And I haven't seen the film at this point, right? Because I didn't know anything about the material going in. And I'm sure you've experienced this too, Roy, where sometimes movies about disabled people really aren't about disabled people. They're about the caregivers, which just, in my mind, misses the point. So the fact that Molly said, like, this movie really moved me, and to know I contributed to that's nuts. And so I watched the film, not with AD, I'm not that brave, but I watched the film and I was like, oh, I get it. Like, I did that. That's a notable contribution. That's awesome.
When you think about where access is headed, specifically in the context of disabled representation, what's the thing that lights you up the most that you haven't maybe shared yet?
Ooh, I think in a weird way, it's the fact that I'm just starting my career. Like, in a lot of ways, Out of My Mind was my first paid gig ever. You know, I had done some $10 gigs here and a royalty share audiobook there. But as far as the first gig where I get to be a pretty little princess and not have to worry about audio engineering at all and just focusing on my job, that was Out of My Mind. And if that's what's setting the tone for my career, and that was a few years ago, Oh my gosh, dude. If I keep putting in this kind of work, which this industry is just planting a lot of seeds and praying that eventually something will happen. But this trajectory is so exciting to me because it's proof that it's possible for me and it's proof that it's needed. Because sometimes this industry is just so tumultuous and everybody can get lost in the I haven't booked anything recently or I haven't done this or that yet. It takes time, and it's okay that it takes time. And take your time.
Beautiful words. Thanks for sharing that. If people were to follow you so that they can know about the soundboard or your latest AD project that comes out, what's the best way to see what's going on in your life, career-wise?
Yeah, so I am at Maren Garcia VO on all socials, Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, although I forget that most of those exist, so bear with me. That's Maren Garcia VO. So, yeah, that's about me.
There we go. Thanks so much for joining us, Maren.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me.